guys, what's up? This is Tom from TTT Tom's Tech Time, talking to you because many people have asked me on my Facebook group, Tom, what format should I choose when filming aerials, when filming stuff, when filming with the DSLR, when filming with the quadcopter, when filming with the GoPro, when filming with the Pro Cam, with the camcorder, whatever. Should I film 4K, UHD, 1440p, Full HD or HD? What is the perfect solution for what situation? And I sat down, wise as I am, and thought of that question. And finally, I've got some results for you. But before we get into the results and all of that stuff, let's first off talk about what all the infos behind the formats mean. So what does aspect ratio mean, and how do all these things work together as pixels, and the size of an image? What is the best, what is the frame rate, what is the perfect frame rate for what situation? Let's get right into it before I get crazy, and let's get started. At first, we should take a look at the various formats available. But before we get started, let me introduce you into the values that I'm going to talk about. The size is expressed in two numbers. The first number describes the width, and the second number the height of an image. A Full HD frame, for example, is 1920 pixels wide and 1080 pixels high. The aspect ratio describes the proportional relationship between an image's width and height. It doesn't tell the resolution of an image. If we take 16:9 for example, the width has to be 16 units and the height 9 units, no matter how high or low the resolution is. It only tells you if the picture looks more like a square or like a long box. An aspect ratio looks different on different monitors. The three main aspect ratios are 4:3, which older films and shows are often filmed in, 16:9, which is the standard of HD TVs, most camcorders and films today, and 21:9, which is a very wide-looking format that is used often in cinema productions. Now, to finally make sure you get what I'm trying to tell you, I created a TV wall, showing three same-sized TVs. The only difference is the aspect ratio. Now let me play back footage on all of them and let's see how it behaves on each monitor. First off, let's take a look at some 4:3 footage of one of my first short films that I shot. On the 4:3 TV at the right, it fills the screen and looks as it should. On the 16:9 screen in the middle, small black bars appear at the sides because the picture isn't wide enough to fill the entire screen. And on the 21:9 screen at the left, the black bars are enormous because the screen is so wide and the picture so narrow only. Next, let's watch a 16:9 documentary of mine that I shot during the protest in Turkey in 2013. On the 4:3 TV at the right, black bars are added to the top and bottom of the image, because to be able to watch a 16:9 film on a 4:3 monitor, the picture had to be shrink down. And the film fits perfectly to the 16:9 monitor in the middle, and on the 21:9 screen at the left, it created small black bars at the right and left because the screen is wider than the film. Finally, to complete the small series, let's take a look at another surrealist short film of mine that I filmed in 21:9. On the 4:3 TV at the right, it creates big black bars at the top and bottom because it had to shrink down the film because it was too wide to be shown otherwise. On the 16:9 screen in the middle, small black bars appear at the top and bottom for the same reason. And of course, the film fits perfectly to the 21:9 screen at the left. I think you now get what the aspect ratio is, right? The pixels value simply lets you take a look at how many pixels one image consists of. The frame rate tells you how many frames your camera is capable of recording per second. A standard digital film is recorded with 24 frames per second. It looks a little unsmooth because of the few images it records, but it matches with the most films and creates kind of a cinematic look. 25 frames per second is kind of the standard in European television. And 30 frames per second is kind of the highest frame rate that matches a cinematic look, even though it records more images and looks smoother than 24 frames per second. With some basic cameras, you can reach a frame rate of 240 frames per second and higher. And this is pretty cool because if you slow that down in post-pro, you can create real cool looking slow-mo footage. If you, for example, slow a video that was recorded with 240 frames per second down to only 24 frames per second, the film will be 10 times slower than the action recorded. One more info that I think is pretty interesting: many computer games have a frame rate between 48 and 60 frames per second, which gives them a very own look
and doesn't seem like film. And if you've been watching Peter Jackson's Hobbit in cinema, you might have noticed that it looked more, more wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, as the doctor would say. It looked smoother and like a computer game. Why is that so? Simply because Peter Jackson decided to film his blockbuster with an unnormal frame rate like it is used in computer games. And now the film looks kind of like a computer game. Now, after all the theory, let's get right into it and let's get started talking about the different formats and their pros and cons and when to use what format. The format with the lowest resolution I'll be covering is Standard HD, often named 720p. Its size is 1280 x 720 and it has a normal 16:9 aspect ratio that fits most screens perfectly. It offers 921,600 pixels in total. With the GoPro Hero 3 Black, you can record with maximum 120 frames per second. And with the GoPro Hero 4 Black, you can record with maximum 240 frames per second. With the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, you can record 720p with 60 frames per second only, which is kind of weak. And with the Phantom 3 Professional, you can record 720p with maximum 60 frames per second as well. So the clear winner at that point would be the GoPro Hero 4 Black. Next off is Full HD, which is often named 1080p and which is the standard these days. Its size is 1920 x 1080 and it has an aspect ratio of 16:9 as well. It consists of 2,073,600 pixels per single frame. With the GoPro Hero 3 Black, you can record in Full HD with maximum 60 frames per second. With the GoPro Hero 4 Black, you can record in Full HD with maximum and super amazing 120 frames per second. With the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, you can record 1080p with 30 frames per second only, and with the Phantom 3 Professional, you can record 1080p with maximum 60 frames per second. Again, the winner would be the GoPro Hero 4 Black. The next film format that is interesting to us is named 1440p. Its size is 2160 x 1440 pixels and it has a normal aspect ratio of 16:9 as well. It consists of 3,110,400 pixels. This format is not supported by the GoPro cameras and the DJI Phantoms, but all my latest tutorials are uploaded in 1440p. Why I always choose that format is going to be an issue of this episode later. Next, let's talk about UHD, which stands for Ultra HD. Its size is 3,840 x 2,160 and it has a normal aspect ratio of 16:9 as well. An image recorded in Ultra HD consists of 8,294,400 pixels. With the GoPro Hero 3 Black, you can record Ultra HD with up to 15 frames per second, which is kind of useless because it will behave and look like a flipbook. With the GoPro Hero 4 Black, you can record in Ultra HD with maximum 30 frames per second. With the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, you cannot record Ultra HD at all, and with the Phantom 3 Professional, you can record Ultra HD with maximum 30 frames per second. Before I talk about 4K, let me first off mention that 4K and Ultra HD, even though many people think so, are not the same formats. There is a slight difference, even though that isn't really visible. And before we get the complete confusion, there are even different 4K formats. The one 4K format that is supported by GoPro and DJI is named DCI 4K. So we are now talking about the next format, DCI 4K. DCI 4K is the ultimate format that is available for consumers today, even though the industry can record film in even higher resolutions. The size of a DCI 4K image is 4096 x 2160, and it has a very weird aspect ratio that doesn't fit 16:9 normal screens, and this aspect ratio is 256 to 135, which they cut down and call 190:1. A single frame consists of 9,437,184 pixels. Wow, that's a lot, I know, and both GoPros and the Phantom 2 Vision Plus don't support DCI 4K at all. Only the Phantom 3 Professional can record DCI 4K with a maximum of 25 frames per second. So in this category, the Phantom 3 Professional is the winner.
Wow, now that was too many numbers and values and infos and oh my gosh. So we're going to break things down right now. We're going to talk about what format to use in what situation. 720p is the format with the lowest resolution I am comparing today. And first off, the main question, should I use 720p at all? And my simple answer is no, probably not. Because 720p simply isn't clear, isn't sharp, isn't crisp, even though many people online say, yeah, that's absolutely enough. I think 720p isn't enough. So why choosing 720p if 1080p, for example, is available with all kinds of cameras already, and the rendering times and the rendering times at our computers simply don't take much longer with, for example, Full HD, which makes a huge difference in the quality. But there is one reason that I would recommend using 720p for if you have to record very slow-mo footage. That was superb English. I have learned that in school, that sentence. So if you want to record super slow motions, you should use 720p because, as we remember, the GoPro Hero 4 Black Edition, for example, is capable of recording 720p with 240 frames per second, which really rocks. And this is actually the only situation that I would think of using 720p at. Now let's just get right to the next format, 1080p Full HD. 1080p Full HD is the best solution for normal consumers. Why is that so? Simply because 1080p, first off, is very common these days. Most camcorders, all the DJI Phantoms, all the action cams, this DSLR and other camcorders, this monitor behind me, HD TV over there, they all support 1080p. And I think 1080p is way sharper than 720p, but it's still handleable for all the, laptops and computers out there. So you can go into post-pro, you can start editing your footage without the need of having a superb computer with, tons of hardware built into it. So I think 1080p is a good choice if you want to proudly present your footage to your family and friends and even to the community. And some of my clients still want me to produce my projects in 1080p. And I think it's a good solution for everyone that simply wants to get a good looking image and wants it to be handleable in the computer in post-pro, that wants to be able to render it out fast and stuff like that. And one more thing about Full HD is that we still have the capability of, for example, switching it to 60 frames per second with most cameras, and with the GoPro Hero 4 Black even to 120 frames per second. And this is pretty cool in aerials, because if we fly and record in 120 frames per second and slow that down in post, later on the footage will look way more stable. Why is that so? Simply because if the camera moves slower, of course all the movements, the up and down and right and left movements, they look slower too and smoother. But of course you should, when doing that, think of the fact that all the moving objects that you might be filming look kind of unnatural. So 1080p is my hint for the consumers that, want to go into post-pro but don't want to spend too much time with it. Next off, it's 1440p. So why choosing this in-between format? For example, I'm using it all the time. So if you check the settings of this video, you will see that you will always be able to switch it up to 1440p maximum. So, but why am I using this? This is pretty simple to describe. First off, it is a higher resolution than Full HD. Now you might say, come on, my screen only supports Full HD. It won't look different. I can tell you it looks different. It looks way sharper. It looks more crisp. I mean, simply turn it on and give it a try as well. Even though YouTube, of course, has a codec that shrinks 1440p down a bit, but it still looks way sharper than Full HD. And I think 1440p is a very, very awesome solution for those that want to have a format that is producing a higher quality than Full HD, but that is still easier and faster to edit and render than 4K, for example, because 4K is even bigger. And I think 1440p is simply a good choice for everyone that says, I want to go into post-pro and want to have the advantages that I always have when working with, for example, 4K or Ultra HD footage, as, being able to crop, zooming into the picture and without losing any quality, or stabilizing the footage without losing any quality. And next to that, 1440p still creates handleable files, which means those files aren't huge as they often are when rendering out UHD or 4K material. So I think 1440p might be a good solution for all of those that say, I want to have more than Full HD, but I don't want to have all the pain it takes when it comes to editing 4K or UHD. Like me. Lazy people that want to have pro-looking footage. So now when should I use and for what purpose should I use UHD Ultra HD? Ultra HD has a big advantage over 4K material, and that is that the aspect ratio fits our screens, because our screens are 16:9 mostly, and the UHD material is 16:9 as well. So no black bars at the top and bottom, and this is pretty cool. And next to that, of course, you have the superb quality of UHD, which is very, very close to 4K. You almost can't tell the difference between 4K and UHD. I would even say you cannot tell the difference. I know someone is going to type into the comments now, oh, I can see the difference. Tom, what are you talking? That is nonsense. But I can't see the difference, especially on Full HD monitors. You can see that this material is way sharper than Full HD material, for example, but you cannot tell the difference between 4K and UHD. So because UHD is a little smaller, it is a little easier to handle, even though that doesn't really make a big deal as well. And I would say UHD is a very awesome format for filming. So if you take your copter or your camera, as this camera that stands right in front of me, and record in UHD, and you go into Post-Pro and do it as I am doing it always, you open up, I don't know, the settings, and simply set those to 1440p. This means that you can zoom and crop into the picture without losing any quality. This is pretty cool, and this is the reason why my GoPro Hero 4 Black and this camera that films me currently are always set to Ultra HD. They are easy to handle, we remember the aspect ratio, and next to that we have all the advantages of this super high resolution footage. It's simply incredible, and it makes such a big difference to Full HD. So now when it comes to 4K, being exact, DCI 4K, many people think, oh, I want to simply choose that because I always choose the highest resolution possible. I would think of that. And again, for a reason that I told you before, because of the wrong aspect ratio. So only if you say the black bars that you see when watching it on a normal 16:9 aspect ratio monitor are acceptable and okay, and you say, okay, I want to go with them, that way you should maybe think of choosing DCI 4K. Because if you don't want those, you have to crop into the picture and you will have the same size and the same material as Ultra HD. And now you could say, okay, I don't care about that, it's only 1 minute that it takes zooming into that footage, or even less. Why not just trying that, and maybe I like the bars, but think of another fact as well. The frame rate, the maximum frame rate that you can film with, for example with the Phantom 3 Professional, is 25 frames per second. And in Ultra HD, you can film with 30 frames per second. And this makes a big, big difference. For example, in aerials, or especially in aerials, it makes a big difference. Because of the fact that you can slow the footage down, even those few frames that you have more, and the picture looks more, I don't know, smoother. I would always recommend using Ultra HD before using DCI 4K. But if I would only have the choice between, let's say, Full HD and DCI 4K, no matter what, I would of course choose DCI 4K. Yeah, of course. Because the image is so brilliantly and crisp and clear and everything like that, that is freaking fantastic. So now again, my favorite setup is filming everything in UHD with 30 frames per second, and after that in Post-Pro rendering the footage out in 1440p and uploading that to YouTube. And now let's just talk of where to upload our footage to. YouTube, I think, is the #1 choice these days. For one reason, you can upload footage up to 4K resolution, which is kind of cool, even though, as I said before, I wouldn't upload 4K footage because I think it's not worth it. I think the advantages of going into Post-Pro and rendering it out in 1440p or Full HD are worth way more than just uploading 4K files. And but I think you are able to do that for free. You don't have to pay anything. And many people upload their videos to Vimeo, and Vimeo only supports 720p for free. Of course, they support 1080p, but you already got to pay for that. And you can now upload 4K footage to Vimeo as well, but it's not available currently. They only say if it gets available, they will convert it, and people will then be able to watch your video in 4K if you now upload it in 4K. But as I just said before, if you already have to pay for Full HD files at Vimeo, what do they want? Do they even want to take more money for 4K footage? I don't know. So I'm going to stay and stick with YouTube, and yeah, this is actually it. Thanks for watching this very, very theoretical tutorial, and I hope this was super helpful to you. Check out tomstechtime.com, especially tomstechtime.com/donate. Leave a donation, and that way I can get a new copter here to check this thing out for you, to create new reviews and stuff like that. Subscribe, share, like, rate, and after this much
theory. I want to slide out of the picture. It doesn't really work. Oh!